Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Megan Lee and I bring you some of the most notorious true crime cases in Asia that people around the globe should remember and learn about. Thanks for supporting my channel, and if you're a true crime fan but aren't familiar with Asian cases, make sure you subscribe to my channel. We have a case from Hong Kong today. There are several notorious Hong Kong true crime cases that are well known around the world, including one of the most famous ones like the Hello Kitty murder in 1999. But long before that, there was a shocking case that involved a serial killer nicknamed the Jars Killer or the Rainy Night Butcher, who used his taxi to pick up female passengers and attack them on rainy nights. This case was Hong Kong's very first high-profile murder case, and you can find several movies inspired by the case, including the 1992 film Dr. Lam. As you can guess from the killer's moniker, his case comes with gruesome details, so listener discretion is highly advised. Now let's get into today's case, the case of Lam Kwar Wan, the Jars Killer. It was an ordinary day in February 1982 when workers constructing a bridge at Sha Tin, a neighborhood along the Shingmun River in the Eastern New Territories, Hong Kong, made a horrible discovery. A woman's head was floating in the river. The South China Morning Post reported that 2 legs and 2 arms were also found soon after the discovery of the head of an unidentified woman. A 6-month investigation followed, and on August 19th, 27-year-old night shift taxi driver Lam Kwar Wan was arrested. On August 20th, it was reported that body parts had been found at his home. Grisly details of this murder case were revealed through the media, shocking the country. Reports said that the remains of at least 3 women were butchered, and their sexual organs were preserved in formalin and hidden away in boxes in the suspect's flat. After police arrested him, they discovered videos and photographs he had taken of himself with the bodies post-mortem. He even documented the dismemberment of the victims. Reportedly, investigators recovered more than 1,000 photographs of Lam's victims during the different stages of his crimes. What led this young man to become such a sick monster? Lam grew up in Malaysia. It is known that during his childhood, his parents used to beat him up all the time, once to the point where he fell unconscious. The physical abuse stopped when the family moved to Hong Kong and Lam reached his teens. But he had difficulty getting along with his classmates, so he was always alone at home playing chess by himself. When he became an adult, he decided to work as a taxi driver. He preferred to work night shift since he enjoyed the quiet at night. Lam had no friends and definitely no girlfriend. But that didn't mean he had no desire for a woman, so in his own twisted way, he secretly collected lewd magazines. Alone in the flat, he would spend hours poring over them, even re-photographing the pictures in the magazines. When he needed something more exciting, he bought a Polaroid camera and started snapping photos of women under the cubicle doors in the ladies' restroom. This kept on until a woman chased him down the streets. His next attempt to fulfill his sick desires was to take photos of the dead bodies of women. The fact that dead bodies don't resist allowed him to take his time exploring them. And a rainy day on February 3rd, 1982, marked the beginning of his horrific perversion. It was just before 4 a.m. when Lam's taxi passed near a restaurant. A woman passenger waved at the taxi, and Lam picked her up. The woman was Chan Feng Lan, a 22-year-old nightclub dancer who worked at the Chinese Palace nightclub. After work, she had drinks with her sister and some friends. By the time she was out alone on the streets to grab a taxi, she was heavily drunk. Soon after she got in the taxi Lam was driving, she felt she had to throw up and told Lam to pull up the car. He pulled up at a service station. She stepped out and vomited on the street. As soon as she got back in the taxi, she told Lam that she wanted to go back. The moment he started returning, she immediately changed her mind. Lam was infuriated by this, and he lost his temper. He pulled over and strangled Chen with an electric wire. When she stopped breathing, he decided to take her lifeless body home. That was around 5 in the morning. The street was empty, so he was able to carry her body inside his flat without anyone noticing. He lived with his family, so he hid the body under the sofa and waited in his bed for his family to get up and leave for work. As soon as he heard them leave, he covered the bedroom floor with plastic sheeting to prevent blood from smearing on the floor. Then he started cutting her body up with an electric saw. He videotaped and photographed the whole act. When he finished the work, he wrapped the head, limbs, and torso separately and moved them back into his taxi. That night, he dumped her body parts in the Xingmun River. And a week later, those body parts were found by the construction workers mentioned earlier. And with the first killing, his demons were unleashed. He carried on a killing spree for the next 7 months, resulting in the horrific and gruesome death of 3 more women. If he committed his first murder in a fit of rage, his second murder was well planned. Before he set out on a hunt for his new victim, he bought surgical equipment and formaldehyde. His next victim was Chan Wan-kit, a 31-year-old trade cashier at a St. Augustine bank. Her murder was carried out in the same manner as the murder of his first victim, luring her into his taxi and strangling her to death with an electric wire. He again took her to his family home, but this time he performed necrophilia before dismembering her into several pieces. Reportedly, Lam had intercourse for the first time when he engaged in necrophilia with his second victim's body. He continued to perform sexual acts on his subsequent victims' bodies. He wrapped her body pieces and put them inside a rice bag before throwing it onto Taihang Road. His third victim was 29-year-old waitress Leng Xiaowan, whose body was also found in a rice bag near Taihang Road. His last victim was a 17-year-old student named Leng Waisum. Her friends put her in a cab to make sure she got home safe, but unfortunately, that was their last day together. Around 9:30 p.m., he handcuffed the girl in his cab. However, he behaved differently with her than with his previous victims. After handcuffing her, he talked about his family, religion, and life for hours before eventually killing her. Around 4 a.m., the time when his night shift ended, the girl fell asleep. He then strangled her to death and took her body home with him so he could carry out his gruesome plan. When he was preparing to take photos of her body, a lamp fell on her thigh and burned her skin. This left a burn mark on her body, which later led to his arrest. One strange thing about his behavior was that he took photos of the bodies and got his photos developed at a photography store. It seemed like he didn't even care if he got caught or not. A technician at the Kodak store saw the photos of dismembered limbs and cross-sections of joints. He thought it was creepy and questioned him about the photos. Lam said he was a university lab technician, and the photos were taken for medical research purposes. The technician still had a bad feeling, but he took his explanation. But it was August 17, 1983, when the technician felt certain that the man was dangerous and finally tipped off the police. The photos he received that day were lewd photos of a naked woman, several shots of her whole body, and close-ups. He first thought they were a couple's intimate photos. But when he saw the burn mark on the woman's thigh and a photo of a severed breast, he immediately called the police. Police came to the Kodak store and waited for Lam to collect his photos. At night, Lam pulled up his taxi in front of the store and got caught as he entered the shop. He first told police that the photos were not his, saying that he was just collecting them for a friend. Not buying any of his claims, they followed him to his home. Police started searching for evidence. They found an old metal box under his bed and told Lam to open it. He opened the box, and police found photographs of body parts, videotapes, and several Tupperware containers sealed with tape. A detective opened the box and he was shocked by what he discovered. Inside was a jar that contained what seemed to be a woman's severed breast, preserved in formaldehyde. A female British forensic chemist arrived at the scene soon after. She opened another box and discovered pickled female genitals. Hong Kong police thought the case could be too traumatizing for a woman expert to work with, so she was replaced with another expert. Police initially suspected that the crimes were carried out by the entire family, so they arrested Lam's father and brother as well. Later, police determined that it was his sole act, as he confessed in detail to his crimes. Given the gruesome nature of the case, only men were allowed to serve on the jury when Lam went on trial. On April 3, 1983, the court found him guilty of 4 counts of murder. He was sentenced to death by hanging. But his sentence was later reduced to life in prison, as the death penalty was abolished in Hong Kong in 1993. Lam is now serving his sentence in Shek Pik prison. It is known that Lam showed no remorse for his victims. During a one-on-one with psychiatrist Dr. William Green, Lam stated that he ate body parts of one of the victims and that his motivation was not primarily sexual. He told him that it was not him, but God, who told him to kill the victims. It is likely that many more women could have fallen victim to his sick desires if that technician hadn't reported him to the police and finally brought him to justice. So that was the case of Lam Kor Wan, an emotionally disturbed taxi driver who ended up taking out his frustrations on 4 of his female customers and is still paying for the horrific things he had done to them at the maximum security Shek Pik prison on Lantau Island. That's all for today. If you want me to cover high-profile cases in your country, you can leave your comments down below. Thanks for watching my videos, and see you next time.